أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program of Tawassul, along with which we are dedicating this program and Majlis-e-Ali for the Shuhada and the victims and the martyrs of the recent tragedy that took place in Quetta, where 11 Hazara community members were mercilessly killed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest place in the Jawar of Masumin alayhi salatu wassalam. We will start our program with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. For that, I would ask Brother Ghulam Haider to go ahead and start us off. Bismillah.
Why I cannot share screen?
It's allowed from my end.
Oh. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي من رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا ساداتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
Santam, Jazakumullah. Thank you very much for that beautiful recitation. Inshallah, before I go on with the program, I would like to request that you make dua sihat for all of those people who are in need of dua. Everyone who is sick at the moment, whether they're suffering from coronavirus or other diseases, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of our mu'mineen a complete and full recovery from any type of illness that they're suffering from. Let's recite this dua 5 times together from Surah Namal. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. Let's also recite the Surah Fatiha for all of the people and the community members of the Hazara community who were mercilessly martyred in this recent incident, and as well as all of our Barhameen who are no longer with us, by reciting a Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The verse that I recited for tonight's discussion in a Majlis, which we are dedicating to the Shuhada of the recent tragedy that took place in Quetta, Balochistan in Pakistan, where the miners, people who were working in these mines, were mercilessly killed. And to add insult to the injury, lack of response from the government and the continuous barbarism by these offset terrorist groups that are working in and out of the country to continue to cause and wreak havoc for the citizens of that country. And unfortunately, the minorities, such as the Hazara Shia community, have been their prime target. While, like every time, the family members of the Shuhada staged a protest to at least call upon the government, their officials, and the top leadership to take this matter seriously. But unfortunately, this falls in the deaf ears of the leadership, who fails to respond every single time. While there may be elements from in and outside, which we really don't, as the victims, they can care less. But the fact of the matter that government has not been able to provide proper protection is really mind-boggling. And to what extent these atrocities will continue, God knows. Just imagine living in that part of the world. Imagine getting up in the morning to go to work, to earn your halal rizq, to work hard, to serve your countrymen and the folks and the people, and be a law-abiding citizen. And yet this is how you are treated. This is one of the reasons why our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, remarkably compared and then gave preference to the companions and the Shi'as living in the ghaibat of Imam Zamana. Fourth Imam predicted, he said, that the Shia living in the time of 12th Imam in his ghaibat, he said they are superior to my Shia, the Shia in his time. Although the Shia living in the time of 4th Imam, don't take them or don't underestimate them. But this is the word of our 4th Imam. When one of the companions of Imam asked him as to why such comparison, Imam said, the time of ghaibat will be so chaotic that a person leaves his house in the morning, will not know whether they'll come back alive, first of all. Secondly, if they do come back alive, their deen and their aqidah will be intact or not. The war against people, those who are the followers of Madhhab Tashayyu, and then the war against the aqaid of Shia is staged by the Wahhabi terrorism funding all across the globe, especially in Pakistan. Because if you look at it, and those who are a little bit older than me, the generation before me, those who have spent some quality time or adequate amount of time in Pakistan, they can understand the fact that how there was very minimal or zero tension between Sunnis and the Shias. In fact, how the Ahl Sunnah, they revered the Ayyam Ashura, took part in the processions of Ashura, and never had any complaints, never really had any concerns. In fact, they wholeheartedly took part in it by staging, Sabil, by helping out during those days, or being part of the Ashura procession themselves. I can recall many of my friends from that time, the street that we grew up, while they were Sunnis, they took part in the Ashura procession. They went along. And so you could tell that there was very little to no tension. Yes, there were events from the time of, 60s in Interior Sin, Interior, the atrocious event that took place where the lives of a lot of Shias were taken. Those events are still there. But overall, when you look at the picture, this tension did not exist. And it started from the advent of the Wahhabism that started spreading its roots in Pakistan, and how it brought about this sectarianism and the killing of the minorities, especially the Shias and especially the Hazaras. So I don't want to take the limelight away from the Hazara community tonight, because this Majlis is for them, but just to understand the background as to the two types of wars that are being staged against us. One, physically killing the community members, attacking, and you've seen in the 90s how many of our leaders, whether they were leaders in Ulumuddin, whether they were physicians, they were ministers, or they were at some sort of position in their expertise, how they were killed. Ethnic cleansing, similar to what Saddam did in Iraq, this Ba'ath regime, killing the top-notch ulama in the 70s, in the 80s, and it continued. Similar was the scene that you could see in the 90s in Pakistan. So this merciless killing of the Shias and the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen is not something which is new. It began primarily from the time of Amir al-Sham, where in his time nearly 100,000 followers, whom you can refer to as Shi'ayan Ali, were killed by the hands of the accomplices of Amir al-Sham, such as Ziyad ibn Abi, Basr ibn Artat, and other folks who wouldn't think twice before killing because of the differences that they may have had. Similarly, many other tyrant rulers came down in the Umayyad and the Abbasid Caliphate, whose purpose was to keep a stronghold against the Shiite leadership, the Imams of the time, and persecute their followers. And that's why many of the Imams introduced the concept and the practice of taqiyya to safeguard their lives. Many of the Imams did not want their Shias to come and see them so that they'd be highlighted that you are a Shia. So you stay away, otherwise your life will be in danger. You look at the tragedies of Kumail, who's known for this dua Kumail, and other such notable personalities who were asked questions that stop believing or considering Ali to be your Mawla. And if you change your wilayat from Ali to someone else, then we'll spare your life. He said, bring a Mawla superior than Ali, then I'll follow him. But while you cannot do that, I'd rather have my blood be spilled than change my loyalty. And so he was killed. People who were present, Ibn Sakit, for example, when the Khalifa of the time asked, if my sons are superior or the sons of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he responded by saying, forget the sons of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Hassan and Hussein, alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Their servant Qambar is superior to your children. He was mercilessly killed. So these events have been part of the history. The Hazara community residing in and around Quetta has been an easy prey for terrorists since 2000 and 2001. At least when 8 passengers traveling in a van en route to Hazara town, Alamdar Road of the provincial metropolis were shot dead mercilessly by unknown gunmen. This was sort of like the beginning of when all of this started. But if you go back in the history, you find that the Hazara hailing from the Shia sect had been living in Afghanistan since the late 1800s. But almost all had to migrate to Pakistan after they were subjected to persecution and violence in the late 1800s by the Afghan king Abdur Rahman. Over 60% of the total Hazara population was killed or displaced during Abdur Rahman's reign, with thousands fleeing to Quetta and its adjoining areas. The alleged genocide of Hazara continued during the 90s at the hands of the Afghan Taliban, and the ethnic cleansing of the Hazaras, whose ethnicity is easily identifiable due to their physical features, was also carried out unabated by some disbanded terrorist organizations such as Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, who are still claiming they changed their names, but they're all behind the same propaganda. Here's a brief chronology of the timeline of the major attacks, and it's just mind-boggling when you go through. This information is, of course, available on many news media outlets. In June of 2003, dozen Hazara police cadets were killed when 2 assailants opened fire on their vehicle. In July of 2003, some 55 people were killed and over 150 injured in an attack on worshippers during Friday prayers in Mekongi Road in Quetta. During Friday prayers, this is where you understand that for them, it does not matter that these people are praying or they're not praying. Does that remind you of something? That when on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein asked either Zuhair ibn Qayn or asked Habib to go ahead and tell Shimr that we want to break and go ahead and perform Salat, because it was time for Salat al-Zuhr. And when one of these 2 companions of Imam went and announced, Shimr responded by saying, what Salat? Tell Hussein that his Salat has no value and it will not be accepted no matter how much he prays. And so when Imam Hussein stood up for Salat, they continued to shower the arrows toward them. So this is the same, if you can relate to it, that while people are praying, offering Salatul Jum'ah, Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, idha nudiya lis-salati min yawm al-jum'ah, fas'au ila dhikrillahi wa dharul bay'. Leave all the other businesses and go perform Salat on the day of Friday. While these people are performing, having left all their businesses and having no worry because they live in a Muslim country where praying and Salatul Jum'ah is permissible, is allowed, yet they are unsafe. In March of 2004, at least 60 people were, killed, and they perished when a religious procession of the Shia Muslims was attacked with extensive open firing, which followed by explosion by the rival Sunni extremists in Liaquat Bazar in Quetta on 10th of Muharram. So this was one of the events where the procession of Ashura was being taken out. Once again, Lashkar-e-Jhangvi claimed the responsibility for it. September of 2010, and I skipped through many because this is information that is available online. At least 73 people were killed, 206 injured when a bomb exploded at a rally in Quetta, taking the lives of these Hazara. In 2011, 8 people were killed when some armed men fired rockets at Hazara people playing outside an open field. Children were amongst the victims too. They don't see who's the target as long as one of these people are being killed who are followers of the Hazara community or they are followers of the Shia. In August of 2011, 13 men perished when a suicide bomber blew himself up in the morning of Eid near Hazara Eidgah. So they were offering Eid prayers. There you go. In September of 2011, a bus carrying pilgrims to Taftan was stopped in Mastong near Quetta after identifying and sidelining the Hazara passengers. The miscreant massacred 26 of them. 3 more were shot dead when they were on their way to collect the bodies of their Shuhada. In 2012 of March, a cab carrying passengers from Hazara town was sprayed with bullets, killed 7, injured 6 more. And 2 boys under the age of 16 were amongst the dead. In June of 2012, at least 15 people were killed when a suicide attack occurred on a bus in Quetta. The bus was carrying 60 pilgrims who had just returned from the ziyarat from Iran. Again, in 2013, several bombings took place in Quetta, killing at least 115 people in total, wounding more than 270. Once again, Lashkar-e-Jhangvi claimed the responsibility for these attacks. In February of 2013, a deadly bomb blast in Kirani Road near Hazara town of Quetta had killed 73 and wounded at least 180 people from the Shia community. The deadly bombing, had claimed so many lives, which happened continuously during the Ashura processions and the other processions. Again, in 2013, June, at least 33 Hazara were killed when Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorists had exploded an improvised explosive device in a crowded area in Aliabad, Hazara town. So in 2011, the persecution of Hazara in Quetta has left nearly 1,300 people dead and more than 1,500 wounded. The victims were some of them high-profile community members, laborers, women, and children. 1/3 of the victims were actually children. The major attacks included assassination of Hussein Ali Yusufi and Abrar Hussein amongst them, and many such individuals. In 2017, it continued when 2 unidentified attackers on a motorcycle opened fire in a van heading for a nearby vegetable market, killing driver and 4 others, continuing the trend of attacks against the Hazaras. And the most recent attack occurred between the night of January 3rd and 4th of this year, when the terrorists slaughtered 11 Hazara Shia who were working as miners in Mach. And this is the list, which is not complete. Some of the people who have been killed like this. And of course, Islam labels these people as martyrs. These are truly Shuhada. Why? Because they're being killed for following something and being the followers of the madhab and the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Martyr is the biggest mujahid, one who struggles. The reason is that these people, they are so peace-loving that they don't go out and take retaliations. They don't go out and take matters in their own hands. They don't go out and wreak havoc in retaliation to what happened to them. You saw peaceful way of sitting with their deceased. And the power of Mazlum is that the top leadership had to bow in front of them. So martyrdom is the highest level of jihad. Jihad is the peak of ithar. Now, these people don't have to do any ithar anymore. They'd rather give their lives for something more important than just be killed for being Shias. Jihad is the name of sacrificing the soul, name of when you choose others over yourself, depriving oneself from the luxuries. These people, if you go and look at their lives, they're not living a very luxurious life, but they're abiding with it. Therefore, we see that these martyrs, following the trend that is happening, and so much outrage by the international community, hopefully, and we never lose hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that one day those who are the perpetrators, if the government is unable to give the response, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely take the revenge. And Mahdi Maw'ud, when inshallah he returns, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, he will have his full revenge. We look at some of the purposes behind the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. These people are not doing jihad in the similar sense, going out and fighting a war, but they're still fighting to survive. What were the purposes of the jihad of Imam Hussein? Number one, to awaken the heedless people. So they wake up from the slumber, from the long sleep that they've been in. These Hazara killings, if they haven't awakened us as a entire community, and the Pakistani community, and the Shia community, Muslim community, entire nation should wake up from this. Put aside the label that these people have on. Number two, light for guidance of men. That's what Imam was trying to serve the purpose. Number three, Imam was creating the sense of action to defend what is right, standing up against tyranny and oppression. Number four, Imam was trying to eliminate oppression and corruption. Number five, Imam was trying to rejuvenate the religion of his grandfather, which had been severely damaged. And lastly, irrigating the tree of virtue and righteousness. History of martyrs in Islam is an abundant one, unfortunately. Different types of martyrs, killed for just being Shia, killed for being the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, killed for their ilm and their knowledge and spreading madhab at-tashayyu. So when you combine the martyr with ilm, you find that this is the peak of it. Here are some of the names of the Shuhada in the history that I want to mention tonight. First person that I want to talk about is Shahid Awwal. You look at how he's called the first martyr. While he's not the first, there have been many people who've been martyred before him, but none like him to the extent that he's given the title of Shahid Awwal. His name is Muhammad ibn Jamaluddin al-Makki al-Amudi, born in the year 734 Hijri and died in 786, 52 years old. First martyr in Islam who was killed solely for his educational achievements and, of course, being a Shia. He studied under Fakhrul Ulama, son of Allama Hilli. He traveled to many places, Dimashq, Mecca, Qahira, Medina, Palestine, and other places. Amongst his heroics is battle against the innovators in religion. He had many debates, people who claimed to be or did idda'a of nubuwwat, he fought against them, educational, debated with them. And then he started this educational revolution, which was awakening for many and downfall of tyrant rulers and their aim to ascend to power. He was summoned to Damascus and he was jailed. That's where he wrote this famous work of his known as Al-Lum'atu Dimashqiyya. Luma coming from the word illumination, light, brightness, and Dimashq is the name of the city. Some say that he wrote it with his own blood because he's in a prison. He's been ordered to kill, ordered to be killed and hanged, or how they will mercilessly kill him. And he has this time to go ahead and write what? Leave behind this jewel, this gem of a work, which, by the way, remained unknown for quite some time until Shaheed Thani went ahead and did the tashri and the commentary on it. There were protests to try and free him, which led to the verdict of his death. He was beheaded on 1st of Jumadi al-Ula in the year 786 for being what? Shia, and a scholar of Shia. So he was known as Shaheed Awwal. Then you have Shaheed Thani, Sheikh Zainuddin al-Jabari. He was born in the year 911 and he died in the year 965. He memorized Quran at the age of 9, studied under his father who died in 925. He then moved to Damascus. From there, he went to Egypt. On his way, in Gaza, he met Muhyiddin Abdul Qadir Ghazi, debated with him on Islamic sciences until he became fond of this young Shia scholar. His ijtihad was clear upon everyone by the age of 33. His writings are close to 70 different titles. Famous of them is the commentary on Al-Lum'atu Dimashqiyya. He was captured while doing tawaf in Mecca, and he was beheaded on his way to Istanbul. For what? For being Shia. According to Hurri Amali, 2 people were brought for judgment. He gave hukm against one of them. The accused went and complained to another qadi who already had grudge against him by the name Saida. Saida complained to the Ottoman Empire at that time, Salim, that Shia qadi is passing wrong judgments and spreading Shia madhab. Salim sends orders to arrest Zainuddin, Shaheed Thani, and place him from his birthplace where it was Juba. But he left and secretly went to Hajj. But he got recognized and he was arrested. While being brought back to Istanbul, he was mercilessly killed by the incitement near the town Bayezid. He was then taken to Sultan and his body was thrown into water. Some Turkish people that night saw nur coming from the water. They found the body of Shaheed Thani. They built a mazar and they buried him. So he was known as Shaheed Thani. Then you have Shaheed Thalith, known as Qadi Nurullah Shushtari, born in the year 965 and he died in the year 1019. After his education, he went to Agra, India, in the year 993. In the time of Akbar, he ascended to the rank of Qadi in Lahore and he wrote 140 books. Amongst them is Ihqaqul Haq, and wrote a rebuttal to Sawa'iq al-Muharraqa by the name Sawarim al-Muharraqa fi Radd al-Sawa'iq al-Muharraqa. He's undoubtedly the person who brought the Tashayyu to India. If anyone who is responsible for bringing Madhab al-Tashayyu to India, that's his person. Imagine the contributions. Well, Qadi, he served as the Qadi of the entire region, Qadi al-Qudat. He said he gave fatwa based on 4 accepted madhahib. Of course, Madhab al-Tashayyu was not accepted. The 4 madhahib were Hanafi, Shafi'i, Hanbali, so Hanafi, you got Shafi'i, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa. You have the Hanbali madhab, and from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and the 4th madhab of Ahl Tasannun. So these are the four that were accepted at that time. Fifth madhab, Shia, was not really accepted. Not until recently, when the Qadi of Jamil al-Azhar, he accepted it and said these five madhahib are all, and anyone can follow any of these madhahib. So when these four madhahib were accepted, Muhaddis Qummi writes in his, in his Shahada, he said, after Akbar Jahangir came to power, the Darbari Mullah tried to convince Jahangir against Qadi that he gave fatwas against or according to the Shia madhab, which are against our madhab, while claims that he gives according to four madhahib. This shows the command Qadi Nurullah Shustri had on all of the fiqh or all of the jurisprudences that existed at that time of the four madhahib. That's amazing. This didn't convince Jahangir that he's Shia. He sent a spy as a student who got close to Qadi, got hands on the book Majalis al-Mu'mineen, took it to that Darbari Mullah who showed it to Jahangir. He was given punishment of being Shia, lashed to death. They struck him so much that his body was in pieces. So amongst the Shia scholars for the past 1,000+ years, there were always those who stood up and defended their religion. Many attained martyrdom in the way. Allama Amini wrote a very beautiful book by the name Shuhada al the martyrs, the virtuous martyrs. And he names 130 of them with details of their shahadat and the purpose behind being killed for being what? Defending the madhab and being Shia. Last of such individuals we find is Sheikh Nimr, Baqir al-Nimr, who was killed in the year 2015. There's a letter that he wrote to his mother. I want to share this letter with you. When the atrocious verdict of his martyrdom was given, he said, Allah yubashirukum bil khair. And then he wrote this letter to his mother. These are the last words of the shaheed to his mother. He said, Ila ummi as-sabira Jafar. To my mother, the patient one. Alhamdulillahi ala kulli halin. Praise be to Allah in all situations. Ammi, ushkurillah, be thankful to Allah. Ala kulli ma yuktab, upon everything that has been written upon us. Taqdirullah khayrun min taqdirina. What Allah decides for us is better than what we decide for ourselves. Ikhtiyaruhu khayrun min ikhtiyarina. His prerogative, his choices are better than our choices. Nahnu nakhtar shay'an. We choose something, walakin ikhtiyarullah huwa al-afdalu lana. But what Allah chooses for us is better for us. Nahnu natlubu shay'an. We want something. وَنَقُولُ لِلَّهِ اخْتَرْ لَنَا مَا فِيهِ خَيْرٌ إِنْدَكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lahul amr wa lahul khulq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the command, wa lahul khalq, and he has the command and he has possession over everyone, all of his makhluk. La ahad yaqdiru ala an yuharrik sakinan fi hadha al-kawn illa bi mashiyatillah. There's nothing that can remain stagnant or move without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La shay kharijun an aynillah. There's nothing which is outside of the witness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. An iradatillah, from the intention and the irada of Allah. Wa hadha yakfi ya ummi. And this is sufficient. This suffices, O my mother. Madamat kullul umur tahta aynillah, as long as all of the affairs are under the supervision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tahta iradatihi, under his supervision and his control, hada yakfi, this is sufficient. Hada yakfina, this is enough for us. Amanatullahi alayk, that I give you in the amanat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah yahmeek, may Allah protect you. Wallah yahfidhuk, may Allah guard you and may Allah protect you. Wa yahfidhul jami, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of my people. Azizukum al-Sheikh Nimr and Nimr. He said, your Aziz, your beloved, and he then put his name. And these was the last words of Sheikh Nimr to his mother. Once again, this is a recent tragedy. So the Shuhada of Quetta, who are killed in this fashion, Sheikh Nimr was also killed because the government gave the execution orders of his. For being what? For being a Shia activist, someone who was practicing his madhab, someone who was, trying to gather his people and try to gain some rights for them. Hazara community has been suffering for a long, long time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give sabr to those mothers who lost these 11 men, their children. Just imagine the heart of a mother, how it would weep to see their son be killed in front of their eyes, that they sit on the janaza of their son. Those wives who lost their husbands, they had to sit for so many days in that cold weather to mourn for their deceased. And then those children who probably have no idea why their fathers were killed. What was their crime? Law-abiding citizens of the country going to work in the morning and not coming back home at night. We as a community have bigger responsibilities. Those yatim of these families, they have to be looked after. Don't wait for the government to do something about it. Those widows, they have to be looked after. Entire community has to be provided for. And I urge all of the affluent in our communities to go ahead and make every effort possible to go ahead and do whatever they can to provide financial and other types of supports if it's possible for them. Use your contacts in Pakistan. Use your contacts over here. Urge the government, inshallah, by next week, the government will be more willing and stable in this part of the world so that we can bring such complaints to them. Bring it to UN, bring it to other places, wherever it is possible for you to stop this genocide that has been happening for so long time. While there are no words to give any sabr and solace to the bereaved family for the loss of these young men who were killed in such a brutal manner. There's no words to describe, and there are no words to say to you, may you have patience. This mother might turn around and say, have patience? While my child was killed in this fashion, and the pictures of their killing were posted all over the world, how their hands were tied behind their backs. Who does that today? And how come no one's stopping them today? While there are no words to give any sort of solace to the families, but I can remind them of Karbala. I can remind them of the tragedy of Sayyid al-Shuhada. I can remind them of what happened to the son of Fatima al-Zahra salamullahi alayha. I can remind them to what happened to the children of Ali ibn Abi Talib. I can remind them to what happened to Ali Nabi in the plains of Karbala, what they stood up for and what happened to them and how mercilessly they were brutally massacred and they were killed. If there's anything that we can gain out of that, well, Imam Hussein and his sacrifice is the one which irrigated this religion, brought the teachings back alive, which were diminishing at that moment. His blood, that sacred blood, which irrigated the land in which he's buried today in Karbala, where is the site of millions of people that visit every day, every year, on different times. We find inspiration from the life of Imam Hussein, but spare a thought of what Hussein had to go through on the day of Ashura. Spare a thought of how Hussein coped with what he had to do. Imam ﷺ, when he was carrying his 6-month-old in his hands, what Imam said, the words that Imam uttered, the things that Imam said. Imam said, this is easy for me. How could it be easy, O Hussein? You're carrying your 6-month-old and you have brought him to get a sip of water? He said, it's easy for me because it is in the supervision, under the supervision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah is watching. If Allah was not watching, no, this is a hypothesis of what I'm saying, then it would have been very difficult. It's like something has gone unnoticed. No, Allah is noticing it. And therefore, this is easy for me to give this shahada. But how difficult was it that Hussein والسلام, himself admits it when he hears that his young son, 18-year-old Ali Akbar, falls to the ground? Imam والسلام, after picking up the body of Ali Akbar, he says, what is there in this life now? What would I do by being alive anymore? After you, O Ali Akbar, there's nothing left in this life anymore. And then the last blow, when Hazrat Abbas Qamar Bani Hashim, he comes down to the ground. When he falls from his horse, having lost both of his arms, and he sends his last salutations to Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Hussein, Imam gets up by holding his back and he says, Alan in kasara zahri. Now my back has been broken. And Imam rushes towards Abul Fadl Abbas, picks him up, kisses his head and his face, wipes the blood off of his face. And at that moment, Hazrat Abbas was weeping. He said, Oh Mawla, I made a promise to little girl Sakina and her friends that I will bring water for them, but I have failed and I have not been able to fulfill this promise. Therefore, don't bring my body back to the Khiyam. Bury me right here. Look at the ghairat of Abul Fadl Abbas, that even after his death, he does not want to face the faces of Sakina and the other children. And that's why in some of the maqatil it is mentioned that every time when the heads were being carried from places to places, the head of Hazrat Abbas would not stay firm on top of the spear. It will fall to the ground. Why? Because the head and the dead head, or the Hazrat Abul Fadl Abbas, he would not bear to look at the bare heads of the ladies that were being brought along. Abul Fadl Abbas, Imam Hussein asks, do you have any other wishes that you want me to fulfill? Imam Hussein is asking Abbas, and Abbas responds, Oh Mawla, I have been thinking about this for such a long time. Imam Hussein himself says and feels this way, that this is the brother of Imam Hussein. Imam Ali has always said to Abbas that you are my son and Hussein is the son of Rasulullah. Always differentiate between yourselves. He's your Mawla. Don't call him your brother like a brother would be. But Imam Hussein wishes that Abbas calls him with this name. And after all this conversation is done, Imam ﷺ says what? Imam ﷺ sees that Abbas is still crying. He says, Oh Abbas, why are you still crying? In a few moments, you will meet Saqi Kawthar and they will quench your thirst and this will end for you. Abbas says, Oh Mawla, I'm not crying for myself, but I see that when I fell to the ground, you came for my rescue and you shared these last words with me. You kept my head in your lap, but in a little bit more moments when you will fall from your horse, nobody will be there to come for your rescue. ألا لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إن لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our ibadah tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بحق Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, give sabr and patience to the bereaved families of the Shuhada of Masjid who lost their lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring justice as soon as possible to those perpetrators of this crime and bring a halt to these crimes that are happening against the minority Shia Hazara. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this shahadat from those people who lost their lives. give them the highest place in the Jawar of Masumeen alayhi salatu wasalam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the zuhur of our rated Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Mutawajjih ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, Assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah, Assalamu alaikum ya Khiyarat Allah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah, Assalamu alaikum ibn Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abika wa ala ummika wa akhik wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Gharib al-Ghuraba, Assalamu alaikum ya Mu'in al-Du'afa wal Fuqara, Assalamu alaikum ya Shams al-Shumus wa Anis al-Nufus, Ayyuha al-Madfun bi arzitu Sali ibn Musa rada wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Sahib al-Asr wal Zaman, Assalamu alaikum Imam al-Insa wal Jan, Assalamu alaikum ya Sharik al-Quran, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajak wa sahhalallahu makhrajak wa dhuhurak wa ja'alana min awanik wa answarik wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Allahumma salli. Inshallah, the Majalis commemorating Fatimiyya, Shahadat of Janab Fatima Zahra Salamullah Alayha, will start from this Thursday and continue until Saturday. So 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, inshallah, Majalis will begin sharply at 7:30. Of course, all of these programs will be conducted online and virtually. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.